Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs, and later today, I'm going to be voting against the Republican budget proposal that's going to cut important programs like healthcare and food assistance in order to give tax breaks to really, really wealthy people and big corporations. At minimum, they'll be cutting $2 trillion, but they could cut up to $5.7 trillion in cuts to programs that a lot of people rely on. I know trillion sounds maybe like monopoly money, but here's what it really means. It means programs like Medicaid that fund 40% of all births in this country, that 40% of kids rely on to get their health care, will be cut. It means that programs like SNAP in California, Cal-Fresh, that make sure that people have food to eat, will be cut. This is actually the thing that allows students to get free lunches at school. And if that gets cut, that means you're gonna see a lot of hungry kids. Where I represent in San Diego County, 1 in 6 people use Medicaid to get their health care. And we know that if these Medicaid dollars get cut, we're gonna see hospitals close because they're not gonna be able to get reimbursed for the emergency services they're still going to have to perform. Here's the deal. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. And so in order to pass these cuts to programs to fund their tax cuts, they're using a process called reconciliation. Reconciliation means they only need a simple majority in both the House and the Senate, so only 50 votes in the Senate, unlike the normal 60 you need to get things done. Which means they're not working with us at all. They're not talking to us. They're not interested in finding bipartisan solutions to the very real challenges that we have in our country. So the way the reconciliation process works is that first there's a budget proposal. That's what we'll be voting on today. That budget proposal lays out kind of the minimum and maximum and directs each committee to work on their specific portion of it. So for instance, in the budget proposal we'll be looking at today, it directs the Energy and Commerce Committee, the committee that oversees Medicaid, to find cuts of at least $880 billion, but up to $2.5 trillion. That's why we say Medicaid could be cut somewhere between $800 billion and $2.5 trillion. Republicans like to talk a big game about fraud, waste, and abuse. But if they actually wanted to address fraud, waste, and abuse, they would be working with us to figure out how we make these programs work better, not just gutting them completely. But one thing is clear, the bigger the cuts, the bigger the tax breaks. And I don't think we should be cutting services for working families in order to pay for tax breaks for wealthy people and big corporations. I actually think wealthy people should be paying more in taxes, not less. So that's why I'll be voting against this budget resolution.